So just for the tape, you hear them say that on TV, don't you? Look, I've divided the page into 4 with 1 centimetre gaps. Because the centimetre gaps, if I'm painting, I could actually come over the edge and I won't be going into the next painting. And if it's really nice and I'm happy with it, I can take a pen like this, one of these marker pens, and I could come down and colour all of that and round the edges in an appropriate colour, probably green. And then that means I could mount the whole thing. But if you just wanted to take a picture at a time, you could make a nice set of 4. They'd make lovely cards. You know, if you have birthdays at certain times of the year, they'd make nice cards. And if the Christmas one is a great success, that could be your Christmas card. If you want to, people, with your other 3 pictures, whilst you've got that in your head, come through if you'd like and copy your post now before you start to obliterate it with grasses and things.
That's a
So,
good
you know,
idea.
Vivian's got a point, actually. So just come through now. And then whilst you can see it all, it's an opportunity to just do your best. Because, I mean, in the other months, we could maybe trail ivy up it or something to disguise it if we needed to. Now, for those of you who might have Cascade Green, this is a good one for it. So I've got a little bit left in my palette. I'm just going to zhuzh it up so that I can use it. If you've got sap green, that's lovely. Let's have some of that as well. If you have blues and yellows in your palette, make a nice green up. So whatever you've got, let's be having it. So I've got my cobalt blue and I've got a bit of sap green and I've got my cascade green. So you're going to need a light green and a dark green. So we'll put the light on in the foreground and make it all sort of look as though the sun is shining on it. And then if we put the darker stuff behind, that would be rather exciting. That would be nice. And find yourself a big brush because we're going to wet it first. The usual story, bit of water on there first. And particularly on a hot day, you know, because it's going to dry quickly and we could land up in trouble with brush marks. It has to be said, in class yesterday, we had a terrible job. It's really, really hard to get the paint to move. All right, so what am I going to do? I've got my number 8 brush ready and I'm using a hake, first of all, just to wet everything. I don't want it absolutely dripping, everyone, but I'd just like to make sure that the paper is not too thirsty because I am using a paper that's got cotton in it, which means that, you know, it really will be quite absorbent. So the sky goes in first, my cobalt blue, and I'm going to use it quite thinly. I think I'd like to make these a bit cameo so that this idea of a vignette so that it doesn't come to the edges. I just fancy that. There we go. I don't want it too dark. When you've got a blob like that, clean the brush, dab it, come in, pick it up and just push it back. Now let's give the impression of some trees in the background. So for this, I'm going to put a little bit of my cascade green on the brush, and then I'm going to turn the brush round and have a bit of sap green on the other side. And holding it like this at the end of the brush, I'm just going to come up and round and put that into the blue like that, so that that looks as though it could be trees. Hedgerow somewhere.
Hedgerow, yeah.
Yeah. Foreground, I know that I want that to be light down here, so it looks as though the sun is shining on this, where we're standing looking at this scene. So pale green down there. And then there's my blob. Rinse and dab, get hold of it, push it back. And then I want my darker green through this middle so that all of this lovely, lovely, lovely white will stand out. So I'm coming in here like that. And then at that stage, oh, I'm just going to make that a little bit darker in there, around that post. Like that. And at this stage, if you wanted to, you could come in and either use some cling film or you can sprinkle some salt. I'm going to have a bit of salt on mine. Just a little bit. If we go too mad, we take too much colour out. The amount that you put on your dinner. All right, so that is my first picture done. If you want to at that stage with a dry brush, you can just come through your post and lift out any paint like that. So that's a really thirsty dry brush. I'm going to lift that out like that so that I don't get too much discoloration when I want to put my post in. And then we're going to let that dry and move on to the next one. I'm not sure my salt will work. It looks as though I've put it on when it's too wet.
Bluey in the front, Sharon, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's more bluey in the front, isn't it?
That's the Cascade Green because it bleeds out into blue and brown.
Which I haven't got, so I'll just see what I can.
So just make yourself a nice dark green, Vivian, of some description. You could put a bit of blue, if you've got sap green, put some blue in it. Oh, what's the matter, Mercia?
I just wiped a flower off. They're still a bit too wet.
Okay, right, leave it. Leave it, go back to it.
Yeah, I have to do another one.
You can always add a flower afterwards with white gouache. How's your brush, though? Is your brush all right?
That's the point.
Check your brush.
Yeah. Right.
Oh dear.
If it's not, let me know because I've got some stuff here that I can bring in next week to clean your brush for you.
Just nick the edge.
Bring it to me next week if it's
Yeah.
spoilt your brush.
I've rather covered my post with paint.
Yes, I had originally. Go through and give it a little bit of a lift if you can, Vivian.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but as I say, I don't know what this paper's going to be like. Might have to be quite a dark.
So do you know what the paper is?
No, it's a bit of a pad I bought in one of these sales.
Okay.
So it's all a bit of an adventure.
Nothing wrong with an adventure.
I've always got something to blame then, Sharon. Got to be. And totally different from yours, never mind.
Doesn't matter. It's what we want, isn't it? You don't. Why would you want it to be exactly the same as mine? This is Vivian's painting.
I've got a flash of yellow through the middle.
Ooh, that could be celandines.
Could be what we like. It's a big
Yeah.
flash. It might be more like a field of rape.
Right, it could be. What's the stuff that's not good for horses?
Oh yes, ragwort.
Something worked.
It could be that, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Something worked. I've forgotten the alphabet.
Ragwort. Yeah, ragwort, Mercia.
Yeah, that's it. I got part of it anyway.
Okay. Seriously, if your brush is in trouble though, bring it in next week. Remind me and I'll bring along my magic stuff.
Okay. Yeah, it's just nick the corner.
Yeah.
I'm just going to carry on with the winter one a minute
Okay.
and leave that one.
Leave it be, yeah. Right, whilst ours dries, I intend to come through and have a look now at my poppies. This
Ooh.
would be, for me, I want to do poppies. So choices are something like, here's one what I did earlier.
Oh, that's lovely.
So just something simple like this. And to make my sky look as light as it is, I've gone in very dark in the front here. All right. But what we need to do is think about how we're going to do this. If you make the sky very pale as it comes down here to the grasses, you'll be fine to put your poppies in on top. If we're going to make it as blue and as green as this, we've got to mask out our poppies. So decide what you want to do. All right. So have a
Yeah.
little think about it.
Yeah.
To be able to do these poppy heads and to put the flowers in, we've got to have quite light sky here. Right. I think I'm going to use my cobalt again, and I'm going to try to keep it lighter down here so that I can put taller grasses in on this
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
The grasses are going to go in when the blue is dried. So that being the case, again, I'm going to wet. I don't need to wet all of it. I'm just bringing it down to the bottom of the post this time, because all I'm going to do is lay my sky in decently dark up here. Actually, I'm going to go quite a bit darker to give it the impression of it being a nice, warm, sunny day. I want to soften up the edges for this kind of vignette effect. And I know I want it lighter down the bottom so that I can get my poppies in. And then, you know, we were playing with skies recently. I'm going to see if I can lift out a few little clouds. If I make a mess of it, I just go back in and I will paint it blue again. Just fancy putting some fluffy clouds in. So just use a thirsty brush, take some of the colour out again. And then again, I'm going to just pull that right down the post so that my post isn't too blue. Now I want that edge to be perfectly tight and sharp and dry before I put my grasses in here. So I'm going to leave that one alone. Let's do something a bit moodier. You know, let's imagine that the autumn weather's changed and the sky is going to look a little bit different. So for this one, I'd like to take some of my blue, and into that, I'm going to add a little bit of burnt umber. And that should kind of make an interesting, moodier grey, so that we've got a heavier sky there. I'm not going to paint the whole thing like that, but let's put that there so that you can see it. And I'm going to come in here. And again, I want to wet this. Wet it so that you can move the paint around. And grab some paint. And this time we'll have some darker colour up here. And with any luck, these two colours will fight with each other, and the blue will come out from the grey, from the brown. I'm going to soften up those edges.
What brown did you put in there?
Burnt umber.
Mine doesn't look the same colour.
Well, I'm just going to move that around until I'm happy with it. I don't like that blob in the middle, so that can come out. I'm going to keep all that soft. But I just need a sky that's a little bit moodier. Our next bit of this extravaganza, have you got any raw sienna in your palette?
God knows.
Yes.
Something like this kind of colour, this yellowy brown. This is a fab colour. Or the other colour that's really good is yellow ochre. For winter skies when it's snowy, you know, when you get that bruised look in the sky, when it's kind of grey, yellowy grey, and you know that the sky's full of snow, this is a good colour to be involving in it. So I want to use some of that and some of my grey that I've just used for the previous sky. So I've still got some of that left, and I'm going to use these two together. And the same applies. If I come in here and I put water through here like this, I'm not going to bring that right down again because I want to make sure that I've got space for my snow.
All right.
All right, so I'm not going to bring the colour right down. And I'd like to drop some grey into my sky and be random with this. And some in here. And I want it to look heavy. And here's the yellow coming in. I want it to look really kind of weighty and moody. Mix some of it around in the blue. And then come in and do the twiddle all around the edges in the same way that you've done the others, and pull out your lamppost. And when you use nice browns and what have you against that, it'll pick up on the yellow in the sky. But I'm making sure I've got probably a quarter to a third of the paper fairly clear down this bottom, so that I've got white that I can use for the snow. And I'm going to just pull out my post. Okay, let's move into this and get our confidence going about how we're going to handle it. First thing we need to do is put in some long grasses. So let's do that. Find yourself something like a rigger brush and find one of your greens, any green that you've been using, anything at all. And we're going to put a few grasses, long grasses, and maybe some stems up to our little heads of cow parsley. So you fill the whole brush, put the whole brush in it, drag it to the edge, get rid of the drip. And then from this post,
Where's it gone?
can you see that? Is that dark enough for you to see? No.
Oh, yes.
Do we
Right.
take this salt off first?
No,
Sharon?
I'm leaving all that on so that I can
Okay.
still have effects from that.
Okay.
If you've got hard edges down the bottom where you put your grasses in, like this blob, use your other finger and just dab. I'm going to bring a few from the foreground here. And then maybe some in here. So we just want this idea of nice stuff growing in the hedgerows. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paint my post. So that we need a decent brown, fairly sort of light greyish brown. Burnt umber is fine, but you will need to sort of tone it down maybe with a bit of blue, because on its own it will be very brown. Oh, excuse me.
God bless you.
Ugh. If we just use it as it is, it's a very kind of orangey brown, and I don't think that your average gatepost is that kind of colour. So how about adding a bit of blue to that to kind of tone it down? Whatever you do, don't put something like Prussian blue into a burnt umber because it turns it green. They really do go green, those two together. Whereas if I put in a little bit of French ultramarine, that goes grayer, you see. So when I've got that kind of colour and I make it really watery,
Yes.
like this, whilst you've got a decent colour in your palette, everybody, use it on every post. So just come through every post, clean brush, dab, dab, and then come in underneath, and we're going to do this poking blend that we've done before that.
Ah.
And look how that settles that right down
Yes.
so that it's not too hard. And that will be just enough so that when you put a green over it or in front of it, when we're doing these other three, it'll just be soft and you won't land up with this really hard line. Right, now take another little bit of blue, go back to the blue again and add a bit more because we want to make this darker. I want a darker colour, I want this dark kind of almost black. And with that, let's put the lid back on that for a minute. It's too warm to leave lids off. And I'm going to use a smaller brush. So I'm coming into a number 4. And I just want to titivate some of my fence posts now. So I'll come down to this one again so that you can see what I'm going to do with it. And down on the base of it, I want some real dark in there. And scramble it in like this. Don't go trying to make it too clever. It's too small to be clever with it. So pull the colour in and you want it dark on one side, light on the other. So decide with your pictures where your light's coming from. So I'm thinking with mine, I'm going to make my light come into all of them from over here. So that means that I'll be darker down this edge. And then you can add a few little bits and pieces. I'm going to just blend that. Clean, damp brush and just wipe it down there. Just wipe it down. And then we can make a bit of fuss of the bits and pieces that we've got up the top here. Put those little nooks and crannies in. And if you want to come back in and just do that again, you may. Keep it soft. You might want to blend some of that. This fence post here in the picture has got a really rather nice sort of notch in it, hasn't it? Which is across here and then a bit down there. And then some of that and that. So you can do that, but keep it easy for yourself because you will be doing that to all of your posts. Mm. And what you can do here later on, not now, just to show you whilst I'm here and I'm thinking of it, is with a black biro, you can come in here and you can just edge up your light side. Pen or a biro, I've grabbed a biro because it's the nearest thing I've got. And then on this area here, where you've got these blank lighter areas, come in and you can, if you want to, do a swirl like that, which will make it look like a knot in the wood. So we can do something like that if we want to. But a pen's quite good to come round the edges and just to sharpen it all up. So I do that afterwards, but I'm just thinking if I don't forget, if I forget to tell you, I just wanted to show you whilst you were there on site. Before we forget and before we get rid of our masking fluid. So come into one of your greens. For this, I'm going to use, I think, my darker green that I've got here, this cascadey type of green. And I think I'm going to try that. If I don't like it, I shall change it and I shall go on to something like the sap. But you want a positive green that's not going to interfere with your background. And what I'm going to do is pull up a stalk, and then from there,
Ah,
all right, and this end of it, get a hold of it. We might have to do that with a paintbrush, but we can do that as well. But just for now, give yourself the undersides of these little flowers. Do some at an angle. They're not all standing exactly upright. If the wind's blowing, you could decide that you want to have them all kind of wind.
Have you taken the masking fluid off yet?
No, it's still on. So that if I go over the plant and I make a mistake, it's not the end of the world.
got
Right.
to take mine off because I did stalks as well. So
Okay.
I've got to take mine off. But you know, I'm always
Just be a little bit careful when you get to the flower, that's all really.
have to be different.
Nothing wrong with being different, darling. Makes you special.
Oh, that's pretty. That one? Yeah. That one. Oh. Yeah.
Stalks on your cow parsley, just take a damp brush and get hold of the end of the stalk. Just pull it and it fades away. Look. And that kind of fades them away into the grasses. So this one needs it. Right, we can take off, salt, and we can take off the masking fluid. Let's see what we've got. And then we'll need to add a little bit of colour back into them because we don't want them to be solid white blobs, do we? So let's just take that off and see what we've got. Take a teeny tiny bit of my, I think I'm going to use my golden raw sienna on the undersides of them. So then I'm just coming in above, and if I've got anything that's hard there, I'm just going to gentle it off. Right, I'm now going to come through there, and I'm going to zigzag my way across this barbed wire. And the reason why I'm doing that and not making a straight line, see, I'm just coming backwards and forwards. You see that?
Right.
I'll just
Looks
go
good.
backwards and forwards like this, is because barbed wire generally is 2 pieces of wire twisted. So I don't want to have one lovely straight line across there. I don't think it would work. And what usually happens with barbed wire, I'm just using a biro for this, is you've got that going on, and then you've got a spike that comes up that way and a spike that comes down that way. I mean, but you can't do that on here. It'd be too much. So all you want is just a twist, a wiggly bit and a twist. Wiggly bit, twist like this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and it looks like barbed wire. You need to make a bit of fuss on the post because they're stapled on. All right, there's a staple there where it goes on the post, and then looking at the distance, I'd have a bit of barbed wire there as well. On some of them, not all of them. That'll do.
Yes.
That'll do, because I don't want to get carried away, because it's very easy to do that, and then you get so much pen work that it's just pen. So I don't want to do that. Right, I'm coming over now onto summer. So I'll leave that there so that you can still see it. But I've got my summer, and this one, we want to have 2 greens. I want a really dark green, really, really kick-ass green. I want a dark green, and a lighter green for the grasses above. So we are now talking lush undergrowth. And we can do that by either taking our sap green that we've been using and adding some blue. So I've got sap green here, and I can mix that up so that I have got plenty to use for the light area. And then I want to grab some, and I'm going to put that next door. And that's the one that's going to have some of the Prussian blue in it, which is a very good colour to darken anything else down. And in fact, I want it so dark that where I've put the sap green into the Prussian blue, that's the colour I want. There's the lump of Prussian blue, but that's the colour I want. And I've got paint on that brush, so I'm not going to wash it. I'll just keep it, and I'll use that brush when I get to the bit that I'm dealing with. So I just put that aside. And I'm going into this dry. So I know what I want, and I'm going to go into it dry, and I want to use... Now, do you feel brave enough to have a go at 2 brushes? Because what we can do here is we can come through, and I'm going to take my sap green, and I'm going to run that right through there. Then I'm going to take the dark green, and I'm going to drop that into the bottom of it.
Ooh.
Like that, and let it do its thing. I want to soften the base of it. So again, I've cleaned the brush, and I'm now just coming in with water. Do it again. Come through. I quite like all that shattering, so I'm going to leave it. And this is why I wanted that gap there. I'd like that even darker than that. So I'm coming into the blue again and see if I can add even more. And then I want to take my sap green, and I'm going to use my sap green to come into this area with a smaller brush. And I'm going to introduce my lush summer grasses, and the poppies will all sit above this.
Oh,
So no rhyme or reason to that. Don't think about it. Just get in there and do it. Just be brave. Just be brave. I want some more littler. Listen to me. I want some smaller bits and pieces in here. So I'm just using the tip of the brush like that. And if the paint wants to do all this, let it do it. Just let it do it. I want some of this dark green over this post, so that hides the root of the post like that. And we're looking at this from really low down, aren't we? We're looking up at it. So that's just what I want. Again, if you want to throw a little bit of salt in there, I can, because it's wet enough to do it. So just this area here, I'm just going to throw a little bit of salt in there and see if that does anything. The reason why the salt doesn't work very well this weather is because it's so warm, the paint dries before the salt has the chance to work. So
Yep.
I've put my poppies in. They're going to be my poppies. And then the best colour for that, if you've got it, is Scarlet Lake. But if you've got anything like vermilion, cadmium red, anything like that, grab it, get a good amount on your paintbrush. So really, really make sure that you've got plenty of paint, because you want these to be solid red. And then you don't need to be perfect into your pen marks. Just do this. You could come in and you could spatter some red as well to make it look as though there are other poppies around.
yes, that would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
So let me do it, and then you can see if you like it or not, and then you can either do it or not. So if I come in here,
Oh, I see you splattered it. I've dropped it. That's right.
so I can do it like that
I
to
think
give
that's
the impression of little poppies elsewhere, or I could make some big splats. Well, I love these little kind of cameo things, because you look at that and you see it, you know exactly what it is, and it just evokes all these feelings of summer and joy and nice times that you've had, you know, maybe playing with the kids, or you know, I'll go and hunt a poppy field. If I know there's one around, I'll actually go and find it to take photos. I know a lot of people do that, to the point where farmers are now being a bit quiet about them. So you see, you can do little ones like this. Look how that enhances it. Look.
yeah, lovely, isn't it?
Pop in a few crows or whatever. So for this one, autumn, nice greens, duller greens, so you won't be having so much of the sap green. You need to make your green. We can take the sap green here, and what I can do with that now is add a brown into it. So I can either go with the raw sienna. Well, there it is, you see. So I've taken the brown over to the raw sienna, and that's what it's given me, this colour. So that's the kind of thing I want. These dusty, faded, almost going over to straw colour is what we're looking for.
Oh,
And then I've got a dark green here. That might be a bit too blue, actually. So I'm going to come in and grab some burnt umber, and I'm going to throw that into the bluey green. I'm looking for these tired colours, if you know what I mean. I can use burnt umber quite happily. And so what we'll do here, do we want to have a bit of a hedgerow behind that looks as though the autumn colours have touched that too? So we've got the sky. This time I am going to wet it. I want to come in here. And I'm coming up a third of the way up my post. This is going to be a tree line behind, which is going to be sort of autumn trees. So I'm taking the darker green and I'm just laying it in. And then I'm going to pick up on this kind of goldeny green here, this raw sienna type of green. And I'm going to touch the top of the trees with that, because if you notice where the frost hits first, if it's an air frost, the tops of the trees will be a different colour to the bottoms. And then I want to pick up my burnt sienna, my orangey colour, and I'm going to drop that in there as well. And let the water do the work. Just let the water do the work. And I intend to come through here and just soften that end, soften this end. And I'm going to leave it hard here because that could be my field line. So at the moment, as things stand, I'm just going to leave that, and we'll put some more colour in here just in a minute when that starts to dry, so that we do get an edge. So I'm just going to wait a little bit. Otherwise, it'll all rush up into the trees, and I don't want it to do that. So I'm just controlling the water. Right, that's starting to give me a harder line now. So I want to come through the bottom now and drop in the colour that's just here next to the post. I'm going to use a brighter green for that. So let me just sort out what colour I could use for this. So that's the raw sienna with some sap green, and then I've got the darker shade here. Let's come through and see what we can do. So this time I want to bring that colour through here. So it's blending in a little bit, but it's not running up into it, and that's what I wanted to avoid. So I've got that green in, and now I'm going for the darker green, murkier green, and I want to add that here at the base, like that. And then I want to blend that, so clean brush, come in underneath and soften all that. And you can see that we've got a bit of a line there, which could be interpreted as the edge of the field. There we go. That'll do me. I'm just going to pull that down like that. A couple of little lines, and then we've got the knot here, haven't we? So let's just do this one while we're at it. May as well. Like this. Now I'm just scribbling down the edges. I don't want to have anything positive or There was a notch in that wood there too. That's it. So we're going to do some of that. Okay, leave it at that. And now we're going to look over here and we're going to see what we can do to the autumn. And for this, obviously, we're going to need all those lovely dark colours, the dark browns. I'm looking at burnt umber and a little bit of Payne's grey into it, rusty coloured browns. So that's going to be involving something like burnt sienna. And this time I want to come in here with a delicate brush, and I'm going to start with my burnt sienna. And I want to introduce something up here like this, which would be, you know, when Doc goes to seed and you have the seed heads up like this, and then you've got these very interesting little leaves that kind of bend over like this. Let's have some of that. So I'm using, this is the burnt sienna. So I think if we take a little bit of burnt umber as well on the brush, I haven't washed the brush, just taken a bit of water, and I'm going to add some burnt umber as well. Like this. And again, I want those strange little leaves like that. So we've got 2, I think we need 3 to balance it all up. So I'm going to come in. This one's all bent and busted, and there you go. Keep it random, everybody. We don't want it to be solidly beautiful. We want it soft and gentle and random. I mean, you think about a hedgerow, nobody goes along and plants it. It's all just happening. I'd like to grab my rigger brush because now I want to think about using some Payne's grey, and I intend to use this now through here, and I'm going to pull through some whips of, this is going to be bramble. So we're just putting little teeny tiny dots along it that could be dead leaves, could be prickles. But this is bramble, and the way it whips about catches the unwary, doesn't it? Catches your feet as you're out walking. And they run like this in big loops. That's it. So just like this. The other thing that we can expect to see in the autumn, go back to something like your burnt umber. And whilst you've got the burnt umber on the brush, take the brush and dip it also into the Payne's grey. So we have both colours on there. And what I want to do here, I'm going to come up from here and I'm going to introduce stalks. This will all become clear in a minute. Just bear with. And lean it into the picture, pull it over through. And again, random, random, random. And what we're going to do with that is take an orange. And I want a really lovely red orange. So let's go and see what we can find here in the palette. If there's something that we can use to make it up. Let's start with this red. This is Scarlet Lake, but I don't want it as red as that. I've got some cadmium orange there. And if I put the two together, hey ho, silver, look at that. So just use a nice orange or make a nice orange. And what I'm going to do with that little beauty is come in here and I want little teardrop shape. These are rose hips. Like this. So they're very specific shapes. So if you get the shape right, you'll be all right. So bulbous bottoms coming to a point. So teardrop shapes like this. Everybody needs a bulbous bottom. There you go. And just paint them over what we're already looking at. Let's get them in here. Plenty of them.
And if you're using Scarlet Lake, it's a lovely colour for this because it's very opaque. So whatever we've got underneath here, it will hide it. And then, of course, with something like these rose hips, you need to go back to your Payne's Grey, because we're going to be looking at this teeny tiny little bit of black on the bottom. This is where the flower was. That's quite important because it just kind of finishes them off, and our brain immediately says, oh, I know what they are. They're rose hips. So we don't have to be too specific, just get little tiny fingers on the end. I'm just using the brush, dab, dab, dab. 3 little bits like this. There we go, and that will give you that impression. So that works well. Now what we do need to do is get some grasses and some dried grasses in here. And again, that means we need to use something like our rigger brush. And let's have a mixture of browns. So you can use raw sienna, you can use burnt umber, you can use the burnt sienna, whatever you use, go in. And we're going to use the tip of the brush to get some lovely sharp lines. We have to use it at 90 degrees if we want to be looking at nice thin lines. I'm bringing some down to here, and if you don't like where they come out of the grass, just touch it. You'll barely see these, and that's fine because I want to do several different colours. I'm doing some of them quite long to bring them up into the sky so that we don't just have up here and down there. I don't want that. And over here, some that go out, but the others are going to pull back into the picture like this. There you go. So that's my palest colour. That is the raw sienna. And so now if I go to my burnt sienna, and I use that, fill the whole brush, and then we do the same again over the top, but now we're putting in some darker ones, like this. And again, you can touch it at the bottom, just smudge it, nudge it and budge it. Bring some over the top of your rose hips. Just feeding in the interest. This gives us the layered effect of light, medium, and we're going to put some real dark in a minute. So we've done that. So now I want to go to either burnt umber, but I'm going to come in with a little bit of my Payne's Grey this time. Not too dark and not too thick, but if I come in and I offer up a couple of bits and pieces like this, and in here, again, just touch it a bit more. Bit dark around the old post because of course the post will be casting shadow down this area here, so we want it a bit darker down there like that. And then finally what I'd like to do in here is come in with my Payne's Grey, and I'm going to here and there just pull out a stalk like this, and on there we're looking at this now, but autumn's here, so we'll be seeing this. See what I'm doing? And I'm bringing this up above the rest of the undergrowth, just to give us something to look at. I'm going to make that a bit thicker down there. And these two have these kind of remains of leaves at the end of the season. So we're going to do this and then a bit of that. So up from here, again leaning in. Like this. And looking at the birds in the sky up here, I am going to introduce some birds because in the autumn months you get all the crows flying around, don't you, looking for places to roost. So I'm going to pull some through the sky like this. There we go. Keep it random. Now the other thing we could do down here to make this of interest is to do a bit of spattering down here with these colours, which would make that more sort of, you know, something to look at. You want to pull the eye into things like this. So let's have a bit of a credit card and a flat brush. I'm going back to my nice little flat brush, and this time I'm coming in with autumnal colours, as though leaves are kind of scattered about and might be floating around down here. This is the undergrowth and the debris that's been left over from the summer. There you go. I think also, whilst we've got the white paint knocking around, why don't we grab the white again, and I'm going to do the same with my rose hips as I did with the little poppies. I want the teeniest little bit on the end of the brush, just here and there, on my rose hips. Just like that. Like that, like that. And it just brightens them up, doesn't it, and brings your eye down to them. And that, I think, is our autumn completed. Now winter's arrived, and we've got to bear in mind that the plant life has been here for quite a while. It's starting to look seriously scruffy. We have bits and pieces, debris that's come from the autumn under the snow, that's mounded and is holding the snow up. I want to give the impression that the snow is also mounded up behind the fence post, so we're going to build this a little bit. But the first thing we need to do is find ourselves a bluey mauve, a cold kind of mauve. And I mean, literally, I can use this muck off the palette. I know it sounds bonkers, but I've got these mucky colours here, and I could just scrape into all this around the edges and use it up. French ultramarine with alizarin crimson will make you a good mauve. That would do you. So anything that you've got that's knocking about, if you've got some of these Jackman's colours that we might have been using left over in your palette, any of these will do, because they're all kind of bluey mauves. So these would be quite appropriate, to be honest. Anything like that. And the first thing you need to be thinking about is taking a decent sized brush. Don't faff with anything that's small. And grab yourself, we're putting the shadows in first. So I'm just going to haul out some of this mess. I'm just going to pull the colour out like this. I don't want it too dark either. By scumbling the brush, I'm literally going to lay in some of the snow. Now mine's really blue and it's cold, makes it cold. If you've got more of a mauve, you'll find that that will be a warmer day. but mine's cold. But it suits me because the blue that I have in my sky is actually quite chilly, isn't it? So you're just going to use some dry brush work that picks up the light on your paper. You don't need to be too precise about it at all. That's it. So I'm not going to do much more than that. That's going to be it. And that will be some of my shadows. Now that needs to dry before we go in there and start plastering bits of twig and darkness. We're going to be doing some negative painting next, which is scary, scary, scary. Let's forget about that for a minute and let's come in and let's do some of the grasses that are here behind our mound. Let's do those first. Using my rigger brush, I intend to come in now. I need dark colours for this. It's no good faffing about with pale colours, really, not for some of this that's at the back here. We need to be looking at some burnt umbers. We need to be looking at burnt umber mixed with burnt sienna. So I want some burnt umber. Whilst I've got that on my brush, I'm also going to go in here into my burnt sienna, and with this I'm going to do something quite unusual. Put this brush in there and then I'm going to wiggle and woggle. Bit brown, so let's just go into a bit more of the burnt umber. And then I'm going to put that into the Payne's Grey as well. But I want to come up from here, and I'm deliberately not being too careful with it. I want it to do its thing. So pull it through, twist as you go, twist as you pull it. This is a technique you more often use with pencils, with coloured pencils. But it's really useful. Gives you some good unusual shapes. Practice it on maybe a piece of paper first so that you know that it's going to do what you want it to do. Now, again, to lift some of that, I do want to introduce a little bit of lighter brown. Some of these, again, we're going to pull down the leaves like that. Well, what were leaves? Just want to, here and there, pull down some bits and pieces like that, like this. And then on some of these we could indeed put some seed heads like this. So imagine they're little spent grasses, those grasses that we've been so carefully picking and preserving for our cyanotype. Here you go. This is them. They're toast now. They've had it. Shame, isn't it, really? Find yourself something like raw sienna, because I do want to bring a little bit of this golden colour through. You know that straw colour that you get at the end of the summer when everything's dry and arid? Oh, look, mixed media cat fur. I think it's cat fur, could be dog fur nowadays. And I do want some of that through there. It's a bit bright, so I might be adding a little bit of the burnt sienna to that. Tone it down just a little bit. This we're going to have to put the snow on afterwards because we forgot to reserve the white there. So that was my fault in the first instance for not actually remembering it. Oh dear. Pulling a few bits and pieces out over this way. And then I want to do some of the serious work on here. So I'm going to take Payne's Grey. And I want to pull up some of this dock that we've been dealing with. So pull it through. Load that brush. Pull the dock through. And then we've got the little branching arms that come off it like this. And then you find that there are the little bits and pieces seeds that are still remaining on it here and there. This needs to be a bit thicker down here, so I'm going to cut into it like that. So just a few bits and pieces of seeds. Like this. Okay. Now, if you wanted to do something interesting, like a bit of dead bracken, a good one for that is a flat brush. So you'd need a small flat brush, something like this. And again, we need a dark colour. So you're going to need some Payne's Grey, maybe, some burnt umber mixed into that. Make up a dark. You could use burnt umber with French ultramarine, and that will give you a good dark too. I'm going to put a bit of purple in there. Just use what you've got. Now, don't go in with too much paint, but what we're going to do is take, going to come through there, and that's the spine of my bracken. And then I want to come through, and I'm going to wide, 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 tip the brush on its side to narrow. So wide, 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 tip it on its side to narrow. So wide like that. And they're opposite each other, but you'll find with bracken. Get larger as you come down the stem. There we are, so that gives you that frond up through there. And I think I'd like something small just poking out of it here. So wide, tip it on its side so that you get the finer mark. Oh, pigeons outside are giving it, making a right old racket. Do you think they know that they're on the screen? Or on the volume anyway, on the soundtrack? Monsters. Dog loves chasing pigeons. Oh, every time she sees a pigeon in the garden, that's it, she's off. Charging down that garden. Okay. So we need to put some darks in down here. But the important thing is you need to leave some areas that look as though it stalks through the ground, through the hole. So take a small brush, and you need a dark. You do need a dark for this one, so choose French ultramarine, and you can use Payne's Grey. French ultramarine mixed with burnt umber's good. Travel around your palette and see what colours you can make with what you've got. It's a really, really good way, this, to mix up paint and to use it up. And I'm going to use this gap here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it really quite dark. And then, oh look, there's a stalk through there. And there's another one. Don't try and make it make sense, you don't need to. But you need to get these white lines in here to make it look as though there are grasses and stalks and all sorts in the gap. That's it, you see what I'm doing. And I'm going to continue that through here. and it's making it look as though the snow is settled on the leaves and on the bank, but there are grasses underneath that are holding it up. We can have little bits of dark down under here. You can do just little bits up through here. Here we can make this look like snow here, so underneath. I'm going to do some interesting stuff through here if I can. And of course, they don't all go upwards, do they? Some of them will be going at angles, so it's a good idea to be thinking about some of that as well. Your aim is to make it look like it's snowed and there are gaps in the snow. And realistically, not too much of it, because if we go mad and we put too much on, it's going to make it all look too dark compared to the rest of the picture, and that's not our aim here. We can take our rigger brush and we can take our strawy goldeny browny colour, and with this we can pull a few grasses up through the snow. Through some of the places that have escaped being flattened, like this. And some of them, if you bend them over, that looks quite interesting like this too. Quite like this effect. So pull a leaf up and bend it like this. Now, as for this, we need the white, because we forgot it, didn't we? Whoops. And we're going to have to put white on top of that, and we'll need to deal with that in a minute too, because it doesn't show up here. So we'll need to deal with that. And I want white on my post. And I'm using it neat from the tube. Stands to reason that if you put this in some of the darker areas, it's going to show more than it would elsewhere. And I'm just going to pull some of that as though the snow's gone into a crack on this here. And whilst that's wet, it's not a bad idea to find your bluey mauve, this colour that you started with, and to gently come in and put some of that colour into the snow. You don't need a lot. But if we come in and we top up around the top of the snow there, suddenly it shows up, whereas it didn't. And then let's have some of that blue down into the snow. If you're going into your palette with your brush to do this and you have white on your brush, can you please just rinse it off first? Because if you put this white brush onto your palette, it will mark your palette. So I really wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. Now you can also introduce this white into some of the darker areas that you've got here. But you don't need a lot because we've got the white paper. So you don't really need to go to town on that. But what might be nice with this one is to drop in a little bit of flicked snow. But you have to be aware that if you're going to do that, you can't flick the snow if it is just white. It's not going to show. So if you wanted to do that, you would need to flick your snow, and it would have to be dirty snow. So you would be picking this blue out and putting some blue into it. So it would translate like this. Having said all that, what I will do first, however, is put my barbed wire into both of my pictures. And this time, I think I'm going to, my barbed wire's broken. Just because I fancy it. Not going to see a lot of this because of course it's hidden by the various vegetation that we've got here. But, you know, if you wanted to, you could put some snow along the barbed wire. That would be fun. Choose the dark areas. Up, down. Work out which way it flicks. There we go. So snow. You need a smattering of white. And a little bit of your blue, whatever your blue is. And I'm going to come in there. You need it quite mucky, so that when you flick, it shows. And even that, you see, isn't really. It's not really. Get it over the dark bits and pieces because that's what's going to make it look. There we go. We have a snowy winter's sea. All it's missing is a little mouse's ears popping out from somewhere there, or a hair. Now all you've got to do is decide whether you want to put colour through the middle and around the edges so that you have 4 pictures together as 4 seasons, or whether you would like to cut them up individually and maybe put 4 separately into picture frames. But it's a nice little set to have.